Now you can't run block, so we can't do that either, which now makes this passing game, which they haven't had to have a lot of creativity in because they ran so well. Well, now you need to peel the layers of the onion a little bit more, and I don't think they think the guy can do it or doesn't want to do it. Whatever it is, chicken or the egg here. Can he not do it or he doesn't want to do it? That's up to him.
Let's bring Mike Gill in now from 97.3 ESPN. You can follow him at Mike Gill Show. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. Go and type it in at Mike Gill Show. What's going on, Mike? Happy Thanksgiving to you, my friend. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday.
I'm doing all right.
We got Wi-Fi issues. I've been alerted, Mike Gill.
Well, we got new Wi-Fi, so now you're switching all the passwords from the old one to the new one.
It's always a risky move,
Yeah. Well, it's a long story because we had to get Ring cameras for something, and now.
I hope everything's okay down there, but.
So now the Wi-Fi thing, you're switching from that one to this one, and my laptop wasn't quite connected to the new one yet because we just got it yesterday, and it's a busy time for me, man. People think like Thanksgiving, like usually, I call a game. I'll call a game tomorrow morning, and then I'm off Friday for the Eagles game, but then Saturday I'm in Philly. Sunday, I'm doing play-by-play again, so it's like this is week's worse than a normal week.
Yeah, holidays are never good for sports, for people that work in sports. I had an old editor who said, "Oh, that's the life we've chosen." I'm like, shut up, dude. Nobody likes it.
Well, I've called the Thanksgiving high school football game for 20 years, so I'm used to that. The Eagles playing on that Black Friday is kind of the oddity here that.
Yeah, it was funny because Vic got asked.
I heard him. He's like 2 years ago, and everyone. I remember him. With the Dolphins played the Jets that first year, and then last year was.
Well, last year he played Brazil. He forgot. Last year was a Friday game.
That's funny. Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, so he's got. This will be.
Although I will say, John, we did air the press conference yesterday, and everybody on our audience picked you right out, man. You have a distinct.
I got tagged in that about 20 times, Mike, right after it happened.
Well, you got to remember, he's on with you every single day.
Yeah, right.
He's on with us a lot, but not every day. And I was like kind of half in, half out of the. We usually air the Vic presser because he generally gives you something. He's pretty truth serum,
Yeah, I feel like Vic has gotten a little less truth serum as the year's gone on this year. I don't know if I'm right on that, but that's just my gut feeling.
And listen, you only get one question, right? You get your one shot to ask your question generally, and then it's like it's 9 minutes. He's pretty quick. But
now with Vic, you get multiple because he answers the question.
He does go pretty quickly, yes. Yeah. I guess the question is because everything is so offensive related right now. Is I guess with the injuries that kind of is a little bit of a thing, but was he disappointed in the second time this year that they gave up a double-digit lead? Even though it's very disappointing that you had a 21-point lead and lost it, everyone's looking at the offense not scoring. Yeah. But the flip side is, well, we have this great defense. You get up 21 points, you usually think that defense is going to win you the game. And that they couldn't do it, what was he disappointed? I'm sure he was, but why did he feel that, in the Denver game, they couldn't get the job done? And in this game, you couldn't get the job done. It's like a baseball game. Cliff Lee, your spot 4 runs against the Cardinals, you got to win that game, right? So we're all looking at the offense, which is fair, but the offense did spot you 21 points. And
now, the defense gave up 477
and they
yards.
gave up 400 plus yards in this game. This wasn't they were getting beat down the field.
Could not deal with George Pickens at all.
No, and we talked about it. You get a glimpse of what Cooper DeJean might look like playing top guys on the outside, and they said, "Look at this guy. This is going to be fun."
Well, I'll tell you what, man, that kid's playing well, George Pickens. I don't think there's too many guys who can do what he did. So I kind of look at it the other way. I thought the coverage was okay. He's just going. The one time he mossed him, he took it off his helmet, so he's in position. I think I think long term, if you needed him, he'd be fine playing outside corner because you're not playing that guy every week. And plus that guy, plus the type of year, sometimes it's like Saquon last year. That's the kind of year he's having a receiver. He's just lights out. Maybe not to Smith and Jigba would be more of the Saquon comparison, but just a great year, a career year. We talk about that all the time. Like guys have career years and usually they're not going to repeat them the next year because they're so good. It's almost impossible.
Right.
And that's the year Pickens is having. So I thought Cooper was fine, but what's more interesting coming out of Vic's press conference was Adoree Jackson could have come back in that game, and for whatever reason, the Eagles decided to be cautious about it because he did not. He was evaluated for concussion and passed the protocol, in-game protocol. So he was cleared, and they decided to hold him out as a precaution. And then you had all these moving parts: Cooper to the outside, Michael Carter inside. Then Makuba gets injured late. That was curious to me why they didn't put Adoree Jackson back in the game.
Yeah, and it's just funny because he was the guy in the first Dallas game that everybody was kind of going after because of how poorly he had played on opening night, and now him being out, and you're wondering where he was in that particular game, and then he obviously got the concussion, and I would imagine it's probably not going to be available for Friday.
Oh no, he is. He's not in the protocol. That's what I'm
really
saying. He was cleared. He did not suffer a concussion. He was a full participant.
He got ripped. I mean, he got hit pretty good. He was
Don't ask me to explain that protocol, but he was cleared and he was eligible to come back in that game.
It looked like he got banged up pretty hard on that play.
Yeah, maybe that's why the Eagles were precautious with it. But he was allowed to go back in the game, and they had a walkthrough, so it was an estimation, but he was estimated as a full participant, and he will be cleared to play in Friday's game, which is a break.
And then as Vic kind of was asked about the safeties yesterday, I would imagine what's up with Reed. I mean, that was a weird. He looked like I figure if you couldn't come back from this, it's not like he had a Charlie horse.
No. And by the way, speaking of a Charlie horse, Reed Blankenship, whatever it was, it didn't look like he was going to be able to get back on a short week. And now the plan is he will play. So
that's what I was asking. What's up with Reed in terms of it seemed worrisome that he couldn't return to that game with whatever. I mean, at first, you're like, he's grabbing his hamstring area. Oh, great. Like anything there, you're out 4 weeks, it would feel like. And then somebody was saying his thigh. And I'm like, well, what a Charlie horse. Like, what could have happened to your thigh that would have kept you out of a game? But that'll be a big help to get him back.
Yeah, it's interesting. Mike, talk to me, man. We do it every week. The problems with this team are still evident. They go up, they score 3 straight touchdowns. They're moving the ball, middle of the field, outside. A.J. Brown's involved, 5 catches for 67 yards. They're up 21-0. And then 41 and a half minutes of gameplay, Mike Gill. They don't get a single point on the board. Now, a lot of different context to that, a lot of penalties involved, a lot of different things involved, maybe stop targeting A.J. Brown as much. How did you view the offensive performance on Monday? And then just your thought on the evolution of kind of this offense. Like, it's another week of a piece of data. It's like, how do you even gauge all this? What did you make of Sunday's game?
Well, I mean, let's remember, too, in the first half, while they should be credited for scoring 21 points, they got a touchdown on a drive that really they shouldn't have been able to keep going with the roughing the punter penalty. But give them credit, they capitalized on the referee's mistake and were able to score. And they did have some semblance of fluidity in their offense going at that moment. But in the second half, when Dallas kind of showed you some different things, they could not run the ball. The offensive line reared its ugly head in again, where there was just no place to go. And they're taking, these teams aren't taking the run away because they're stacking the box with 8 and 9 guys. Your offensive line just can't win at the point of attack. And now you can't run the ball, and there's more guys in coverage because of it, because less guys are in there. You used to see these 8 and 9 man fronts last year that you're trying to run on. Well, now guys are like, we can win up front. We don't think that you're beating us at the point of attack, so we can put more guys into coverage. So the offensive passing game that they've had in the past that has been meh, but has only 4 guys in coverage or 5 guys maybe, now has 6 and 7 guys in coverage. So these basic routes that they generally run are now being covered more than they were in the past. So there's a lot more cluster in the areas where they want to try to throw the ball. And in the second half, you saw a lot of those routes being taken away, the running lanes not there, and you end result 3 and outs. I mean, they just cannot run the ball. The whole game comes down to 3rd and 2, and it's a microcosm of the problems. On 3rd and 2 last year, they handed the ball to Saquon Barkley. They either get 1 yard and then push it, or they get a first down easily. They didn't even elect to try a run. They threw the ball and got sacked because they cannot run. So we could try to blame Kevin Patullo all we want. When you only have half the playbook to call, that's not an easy way to do your job. Hey, man, do your job, but don't call any of these plays because they're not going to work. Good luck, buddy. We're all counting on you. And while Patullo has some hand in this in the pie chart, obviously, everybody's acting like this guy was a blind man walking down the street who never designed a play in his life and got this job. He has worked in the NFL.
Yeah,
the guy has some idea what he's doing, but we have to understand they cannot run the ball. So if you're playing John Madden football and you can't run the ball, I imagine most of these people are going to stop trying to run it and just throw it all the time. Well, the Eagles can't run. They just cannot do it this year. And their whole offense, like when you install this offense in preseason, training camp, it's predicated on the fact that, hey, we're going to be able to run the ball pretty much whenever we want to. That's what we've lived on. Chris Long was on his podcast the other day talking about how the line's problems, going back to when he won the Super Bowl here in 2017. It's like the whole offense is built around this line. That's what this team does. And they can't do it. They just cannot do it right now. So it has affected everything offensively because of their inability to run.
Yeah. They went from amazingly, they weren't the best running team in the NFL last year because of Baltimore, but they were number 2. And if you take the playoffs, obviously they were number 1. Largest rushing season in NFL history, when you include the postseason, by Saquon Barkley. And now you're down to 684 yards through 11 games, under 4 yards a carry, 3.7 yards per carry.
Saquon Barkley might get 1,000 less yards than he ran for 1,000. Like, you're like, he's not going to get 2,000 again, but you might get,
Last time 15. I looked, it was 900 below pace-wise of what he had last year in the regular. And remember, he sat a game at the end. He rested in a bunch of fourth quarters. That's how dominant he was last year versus this year. And they're 21st in the run game, and by the way, that's inflated by Jalen Hurts. And for all the people that say, well, Jalen Hurts doesn't run it, which he doesn't as much as he has, but he's still a big part of it. He's got to give me an example this week, Caleb Williams. Well, what a great athlete. What a phenomenal. And all of that is true. Jalen Hurts has 298 rushing yards as a quarterback. Caleb Williams has 293. So the point I'm trying to make is, and Caleb's a big import to the Bears rushing offense, which is pretty good. He's still a big part of the run offense, and they're still 21st. It's been a disaster, the run offense. And forget about Saquon, Mike. If you go back, they could run the ball since Nick Sirianni scaled it back in 2021, whether it was Miles Sanders,
that's an
DeAndre
interesting
Swift.
That's an interesting line of demarcation. Okay. I was talking about this yesterday on my show. People talk about the Eagles and their pass offense and, how kind of almost elementary it is. Nick Sirianni called the plays for this team, those first 7 games. And I went back and looked at them yesterday. They were throwing the ball like 40 times a game and with success, like 389 yards, 40. Hurts had a game where he threw the ball like 49 times for 380 some yards. I mean, and they were losing these games because they weren't good enough. But so the point is, they do have some creativity in the pass game that they have used before. The problem was they weren't very good, and they shifted to this run-focused offense because of the offensive line being so good there. So you wonder, people are like, well, how come Sirianni doesn't call the plays or there's not more creativity in the pass game? I do wonder if Sirianni could have more influence on the pass game and kind of add some things that they tried and did pretty well that first year that Jalen was here, because he was having success in throwing the ball. The team just wasn't having success because they were throwing the ball so much. And then, you're running the ball, you're shortening the games, you're wearing people out. They were throwing so much with a team that just wasn't talented enough. But that is an interesting point to me, is that Sirianni, when he was calling the plays, was very pass heavy.
Oh, yeah. Well, he was coming off an offense with Phillip Rivers that just was crazy successful from a passing perspective. I would say if it were up to him, he'd be running 11 personnel all day, spreading the field more, throwing the football more. That's most.
So the point that I'm making, though, is that this goes back to people feel like that Kevin and Nick are just these two bumbling idiots that don't have any creativity.
I always, you know what's amazing to me? It really just the base common sense of it all. I talk about it all the time. Somebody called it a high school offense this week. I mean, really? You think a guy's 15 years in the NFL don't know what a crossing pattern is? Back in the I know I've explained it on your show multiple times about pet peeve of mine, hot routes. Yeah, NFL coaches don't know what a hot route is. And the guy saying, you got to call more hot routes. Guess what? That guy, you don't know what a hot route is. You don't call them. It's a sight adjustment. And everybody in the NFL knows what they are.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me. And then when you have all these great coaches, the Ben Johnson, one of them's coming in, and the Sean McVays and the Kevin O'Connells and the Kyle Shanahans, and they can't beat the idiots. Well, what are they?
Yeah. We always in professional sports go after the coach, the manager, whoever. They're an idiot. They don't know what they're doing. And you got to remember, most of these guys, Nick Sirianni, he was in Kansas City before Andy got there. So you're going back to 2012 that Nick was in Kansas City. Then he was in San Diego with the Chargers before he got to Indianapolis. And in those stops, he's worked with a lot of offensive people. He was the offensive coordinator. While he was not the play caller in Indianapolis, he worked with Frank Reich, who people, I think, would go running to say, bring Frank Reich back here. Sirianni worked for Frank Reich. You don't think they run the same shit? It's crazy. And Patullo, by the way, was with him in all those stops. And also, so these guys sit in a room all day and watch tape of plays and design these plays. And we think that they don't have any clue of what they're doing. It's wild to me that we get to that point first, I can understand saying, look, he doesn't have the rhythm I think that Patullo lacks the storytelling in his offense where I'm setting you up. I'm going to keep doing this, and then I'm going to hit you with that. So I think the play design is flawed at this point because their running game has been taken away. They cannot run the ball. And the pass game in the past is kind of tailored to what Jalen does and what he wants to do.
Well, that's what I mean. Do you think they don't trust Hurts and that's why they don't open up? Or do you think they believe in their philosophy more than their their desire to open it up?
That's a good question. I would say this. There's really one constant in this offense. It's Jalen Hurts. And we've complained about the passing game with every coordinator. They don't all suck. Not every – you can't
by
just –
the way, that's the interesting part. I was pulling it up, and I was texting with an Eagles executive the other day. And, because they're very kind. Obviously they think some of the hate is unfair. It was like, think about every name. Kellen Moore. Now, because they won the Super Bowl. Got tons of hate during the season in year. Where's the emotion? Where's this? Where's that? Brian Johnson, Shane Steichen, tons of hate in 2021. Press Taylor, Doug Peterson, Mike Groh, Frank Reich. 2016, they were thinking about firing Frank Reich. Chip Kelly, Pat Shermer, Marty Morning, Brad Childress, Andy Reid. They all get hate. Every single one of them. Every single one of them. Now, there's the revisionist history when there's success. But every single offensive mind, that's part of it, man. And I joked, you forgot one, Nick Sirianni. Every single one of them.
Well,
and the next
all of those guys
will get hate.
Oh, absolutely. Look, I always laugh when people say you got to fire so-and-so. Why? So you can ask for the next guy to get fired too? Like,
exactly.
Name a coach that you haven't just complained about. No coach has ever been universal. Like, now, Vic Fangio, I would say, is that coach that is universally liked no matter what. He can almost do no wrong because he has got himself into the zone, the safe zone of he can do no wrong. So he gets virtually no credit. And I'm not saying he deserves any criticism. I'm just saying he's got himself to the level with the fan base that Fangio's unit will never be the problem. It will never be wrong. So now the offensive guy is getting triple the heat. And listen, we complained about Kellen Moore. We complained about Steichen. We complained about Brian Johnson. Huge. The one constant is the guy that they have to call the offense for. And you wonder how much that prevents them from really doing what they want to do in their offense. Now, what he does, what they do for him, he does really well. But how limited does that make you? And think about this. You now have 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, and now most of 2025 all on tape to see this is what they do with this guy, and let's keep taking it away and taking it away. You can only keep turning into a chameleon and changing what you do and adjusting so many times before you're out of answers because the defense is saying, you do that, we're taking that away. You do that, we're going to take that away. Now you can't run. Now you can't run block, so we can't do that either, which now makes this passing game, which they haven't had to have a lot of creativity in because they ran so well. Well, now you need to peel the layers of the onion a little bit more. And I don't think they think the guy can do it or doesn't want to do it. Whatever it is, chicken or the egg here. Can he not do it or he doesn't want to do it? That's up to him. But he goes to that line of scrimmage and has autonomy to do pretty much what he wants. And these are the results of what he wants. And there's not a lot there.
Yeah.
What do you think Jeffrey Lurie
fourth
thinks?
and sixth autonomy too, by the way.
Mike, I want you to speculate on what you think Lurie thinks. You think he's like Patullo and Nick, this offense has to go, change it up for Jalen, open it up, take the straitjacket off? Do you think he looks at it like offense isn't good enough, quarterbacks not getting the job? Like, how do you think he views it?
I think this is one of those situations where you're kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place here. You don't want to have to even think about making a change, but you're realizing what's going on here. And if you sit on your hands now, in 2023, they brought the whole band back pretty much. Not the whole band. Obviously, the coordinators were gone, but they brought Nick back, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. So I think he has Sirianni. Does he have another run in him, or is it going to go down the Doug Peterson route where, hey, you hired your buddy, that didn't work, now we got to get somebody else in here? And does he put his foot down and say, no, I'm not doing that, and then they have an amicable breakup here? That's possible, I guess. Or does Nick just go with the flow? I think one of the mistakes they made, while I'm not blaming Kevin Patullo at top of the list, I wouldn't have hired a guy with no experience to be the play caller for this team. I mean, I likened it to you gave a 16-year-old first-time driver a Lamborghini and said, "Here you go, buddy, go take a ride." And then the kid's riding around the block going the speed limit with two hands on the wheel, driving a Lamborghini. Like, I can't mess this thing up. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. So, and I get it. Was there a
my pushback to that, Mike, would be Kellen Moore has tons of experience as a play caller. Was there tons of difference in the passing game?
No, but I agree with that. I do think, though, that maybe he had a little bit better feel. Now, I will say this about Patullo in terms of everybody's ripping him in the job that he did on Sunday. They had a lot of big plays that got negated by penalties, right?
Even in the second half, and they couldn't score,
right. So there are plays that he called that worked, that the self-inflicted wounds. That's not his fault. I mean, he called the play.
It's his fault from preparation staff. Like I said, if you want to blame the coaching staff, I said it pretty consistently.
The one where the guy prior that play, sure, that preparation, but turning your head too fast. I mean, what the hell was that penalty? I mean,
well, sometimes you get a bad break. That's a bad break. But and it was Devontae Smith. I did go back. Devontae Smith, that's not Matt Pryor's fault. That's Devontae Smith's fault. Got to make sure the extra offensive lineman, Matt did his job. His job is to report. You do this. Mm-hmm. He did his job. Then it's up to the wide receiver to make sure he's lined up correctly. Unfortunately, the NFL, the stupid legislation, Matt Pryor gets that penalty. Everybody says Matt Pryor's an idiot. No, he did his job. The star didn't do his job on that particular play. And all of a sudden,
the referee announces number 79 did not report it and wasn't covered up. So everybody hears 79 and just assumes it was his fault.
Exactly. Well, and that's not the referee's fault, because that's how it's designed. The legislation, if you report and you're uncovered, they're always going to call. It's not like they have the option.
Yeah.
But it's also always the wide receiver's fault. If the only time it's the extra offensive lineman's fault, if he doesn't report, like Dan Skipper with the Lions, that famous play where he did report, but they missed it, and he got a lot of shit for that. That's when it's their fault. If they're uncovered, that's the wide receiver's fault. But it's it's called on the offensive lineman always, and most people don't understand that. However, the result is, and by the way, that's a nifty little play, Mike Gill, to get Dallas Goedert open, and you got a 20-yard chunk play, 1st and 10 at the 40, but your star wide receiver didn't line up correctly.
Yeah. Then they had a couple plays that were positive, good plays that got negated by, the Fred Johnson hands to the face or whatever they called him for. That was a play that worked. And look, I feel that there's just not a lot of rhythm in terms of setting things up. Like, hey, we're going to, they run under center now more, which I guess they're deciding that that's something. But then they very infrequently run play action out of the under center look. So you go under center, you run, and then eventually you play action under center, and then you take a couple shots out of it. They very infrequently use that setup to do that. I'd like to see them. I will say there was one play that sticks out. We talk about Jalen doesn't like to throw the ball over the middle of the field. I think one of his best throws of the day was the anticipation throw to A.J. Brown in the seam on the right hash mark there. He threw him open. He hit him in stride, but
only one though. It's the only. Anticipation throw of the game.
It's the only time I've seen him do that. Really,
I mean, the deep shot to Devontae Smith. People don't want to talk about. That was an awful throw. I mean, that was a bad throw. I mean, Devontae Smith had to do a somersault backwards to go and get that football. He could have walked into the end zone. Now people don't want to hear that.
You talk about what this passing game was in the past. Very simple. Not a lot of craziness to it. Not a lot of this, that, or the other. But they were facing so much less coverage because of the run game. So you only,
that's fair.
You go into coverage and there's really only 4 or 5 guys back there that you are looking at. Well, now sometimes they're seeing 7 guys in coverage, which is taking away some of the lanes that you used to be able to find guys sitting in there and get them the ball. And those areas are not there because they're not as particularly worried about the run game.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, to me, it's pretty obvious. They can't run the football, and it's made everything much more difficult to do. Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Do you guys think the concussion that Jalen Hurts had last year in the Washington game, which was the first concussion of his career, do you think that, I don't want to say spooked him, but, sometimes you get one of those maybe, and it feels like he doesn't run as much anymore. Is that because they don't want him to run? Is it because he doesn't want to run anymore? I think the quarterback run, is an element they could add to this offense that would really open things up. And I just don't know why they don't do it as much. Is it more Jalen? Is it more the team? You think the concussion had anything to do with it? I think it's a fair comment considering it was the first one of his career. How do you guys think that's impacted Hurts?
I think we've been talking about him not running nearly as much going back to 2022 when he had that unbelievable rushing season and almost 30% of their offense was an RPO with him keeping the ball. And, I mean, he almost had like 800 yards rushing that season. I mean, he's like a 300-yard rusher at this point right now. He just doesn't, it's just they did run a couple design runs last week. I think they had 2 early in the game.
Yeah, it was pretty successful. He audibled to one at the touchdown. With quarterback draw.
I don't think there's no question, though, that would be another layer that you can add, although the RPO game is essentially just not even a part of their
That's because, again, they can't – the timing is off and they get too many penalties. Nothing to do with, worried about Jalen Hurts. Now, I do believe they're worried about – they're trying to manage Jalen Hurts as he gets older, and you'll see more of it as games get high leverage, as you already have. He had a big rushing game after, to Zander's point about the concussion. I don't see that at all.
Okay, well, that's fair. I just brought it up. I heard who did I hear talking about it? I think it was Sealski. And he just mentioned it. Didn't insinuate it was the reason, but he just mentioned how sometimes there has been instances where that stuff spooks a player,
Carson, it spooked Carson.
Yeah, right.
Carson's was much more serious, I think, number one. He had a big rushing game. People forget he had a terrible passing game against the Rams in the playoffs last season, but he had a big rushing game against the Rams in the playoffs. They're definitely doing it less, but I think that's designed as he gets older to try to manage him through the season, so to speak. And then, when they need it, they're going to pull it out and he's going to run the foot. That Jalen's going to pull it out and just run the football when he needs to run the football. But yeah, I'm not saying it couldn't spook people, but I don't get that from Jalen at all.
That's fair. Well, don't you think, though, that could be an element that would get the offense going a little bit? Like, they got to go. I think they got to go back to it a little bit. I mean, get Jalen running. It might open
you look at the first game this season against the Cowboys. It was all run. It was all him extending the play.
Yeah, right. That's how they won the game, basically.
So I think one of the plays that worked a lot for them, and we talked about this Friday, I had Jesse Holly on, who does the Believe in Cowboys podcast. He played wide receiver for them years ago, and he talked about one of the areas where Dallas is vulnerable or has been vulnerable this year is the running back catching the ball out of the backfield. And I laughed. I said, well, they just don't throw the ball to the running back. They had a little success throwing the ball. Just the problem is you're throwing it to Saquon, and then he fumbled. He's not a great pass catcher, but Shipley, they're guys that you want to get the ball in space and see if you could just have these little dump offs. You'd like to see them, since they can't run, but you want to use Saquon, fine. A little bit more extension of the run game, getting those guys in short space and letting them catch the ball. Because Saquon, he's getting those touches and he's getting 8 to 10 yards. Now, you can't fumble the ball, which he had that problem in the Falcon game last year. We know that. He fumbled again this year on that. But it's a way that you can get him some more in-space touches if you're struggling to run the ball. But he's just not a receiver that I think the Eagles want to say, hey, we're going to build a game plan today to get you 6-7 catches out of the backfield. You can probably implement Shipley a little bit more on plays like that if you think your run game cannot get going and you still want to run the ball a little bit.
Yeah. They missed Kenny Gainwell. That's underrated. Now, I mean, they didn't throw the ball to their backs, but when they did, he was very trusted. He just wanted Jalen Hurts.
Had a slight uptick in catching the ball this year. Actually, I think he's already had more catches this year.
No, yeah, a little bit.
Out of necessity.
Yeah, right, because he can't run it.
But
this is where Bigsby's averaging 9 yards a carry. Now you could say, well, he's got a game's worth of carries, 18 carries for 160 some yards. I mean, 9 yards a carry. Even if he gets cut in half, he's obviously hitting. He's just going. He's almost like doing it without thinking, just taking the ball and running forward and getting the yards by accident sometimes because he's just running so violently forward. So you might have to make that decision of like, we got to have to start mixing this up a little bit more. Give Tank 5 to 8, give Shipley a couple touches in the passing game. I mean, at this stage, with the way the running game's going, you might have to suck up a little pride here. I talked about this and I posted it yesterday on my X handle. They gave Barkley that extension. I was not a fan of that decision at all.
Well, remember, you took some shit on this show and you said it in the summer.
And
you don't have to do it. But I don't worry about that because.
Well, I'm just saying he is. I was the thing that made me think about it is he is signed through the 2028 season. I mean, 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028. You're looking at him being the running back here potentially for 4 more years. If that's the case, you might want to start.
I mean, you can get out of that.
I'm sure you can, but 41 million. He got a lot. I think it was like 36 million guaranteed up front, I think was the number, if memory serves.
Which, that was an example. And I agree from a pure business perspective that, they didn't have to do it. And it was more of a, hey, thanks for the season more than anything else. Long term,
they admitted in the Super Bowl season in 2017 that they got a little nostalgic and signed guys and gave them contracts that they probably shouldn't. Jeffries was one of them. And you think about the first decision they made after winning this Super Bowl. Did they go similarly down that road of, hey, we won the Super Bowl? And we all saw the way, if we watched the Saquon documentary, how Howie basically told Saquon, you were the reason why, like bringing you here was why. Here's your money, man. Like, thank you. Like it was, and that's the first decision of like, is this one going to come back?
I mean, I just don't think from a business perspective, it's going to hurt them. I
always say that Howie signs these deals knowing how he can get out of them. So
basically what he did is he kicked the can down a road one season so they can get out of it. If they wanted to and didn't sign the extension, they could have got out of it after this season. And
by the
maybe
way,
you
John,
could argue
update to the media schedule today. Did you get this?
Yeah, I just got
Nick
it.
at 12:10. So if you have to hurry up,
I got 20 minutes. we got to get you out of here at Mike Gill Show. That actually improves the day for me, but except the open locker room's a little bit later. But so anyway, they could have gotten out of it after this year. Now they can't get out of it until after next season. So
but if you watch the year that you just got here, would you be thinking about it?
Yeah, a little bit. You have to think about, is it, as I always say, this game moves quickly, and when guys lose it, they lose it. But I look at him athletically, he still looks like he's got some juice.
Yeah. I don't think he's a top problem on this team right now.
Well, I don't know if you guys were probably Jason Avant was saying the other day that he's like, look, Saquon's my friend, and I have to call you out. You are running timid. You are looking like a guy who got your money and doesn't want to get hurt. I thought that was a pretty big call out from a former player to a guy saying, you look timid, you don't want to get hurt, you got your money.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that I'm watching Saquon thinking, here's a guy who has that mindset. Like, I just feel like there's not a – but if you look at some of the stuff, there are times where you're like, man, if he just kind of hit and went, bang, he could break it this way. And it's like he's just trying to push forward into the whole –
I was talking to Ross Tucker, this is the Giants, Saquon. This is what the Giants saw. This is a guy who is a phenomenal athlete who never had the best vision. So when you hit it, it looks great, but the 4 or 5 yard stuff where you're patient, that's not his strength.
The stat that stands out about him is last year, almost 4 yards before he got touched, 3.8 yards before contact. This year, that number is like 1.8. So he's getting hit almost immediately, as opposed to last year, he's getting 4 yards before anybody's touching him. That's a huge
difference. I mean, somebody put a clip yesterday of they put all his runs together, or a lot of them. I mean, Landon Dickerson gets blown up on a lot of these runs. Now, I'm not saying Saquon, is doing a great job in every moment, but I do think the offensive line is a big part of it. All right, Mike,
go ahead.
Go John, real quick.
The one that everybody threw out there which was a pin and pull, and Landon didn't get outside, which is correct. So you can say, well, Landon Dickerson's not making that block. But, the top vision runners, like Jonathan Taylor, probably number one right now, cuts that back and you get 4 or 5 yards. That's what he's meant. Like he went. That's what you're supposed to follow your blocker. But there's that innate sense with the great sort of vision runners. All right, that's not there. I'm not going to hit the 80-yard home run, so I'm going to cut it back and get 4 or 5 yards.
Well, and you wonder how much frustration there is that he can't hit that big one, and he's trying so hard to do it.
Exactly. I think that's a part of it too. All right, Mike, Black Friday game, Eagles-Bears. They're 4-3 in their last 7 games, the Philadelphia Eagles. What do you got? Who do you think? You think the Eagles win this game?
Well, I took Dallas last week, and I got a lot of crap for that one. And I've been saying all year, I think this Bears team is very dangerous. In fact, there's always a team that goes from worst to first, and we're looking around divisions, and we couldn't find any. And I said at the beginning of the year, don't discount it being the Bears as that team, because as this season goes on, they are getting more and more and more comfortable with the offense with Ben Johnson. They're finding some rhythm. If you watch them play, there's a story to be told. And the one thing, Courtney Cronin wrote a great article over at ESPN about the strongest unit of their team is the offensive line. They went out and made trades and drafted and bolstered a awful line.
It's always the offensive line.
And has made their line one of the best. And if the Eagles' pass rush is as negated as it was last week against the Bears, they're going to have some problems. And if their offense is as bad as I've seen, this offense all year has been mediocre at its top level. They will lose this game on Friday. And there will be a lot of fun on this show.
That's gonna be chicken.
Another thing to watch: Bears are plus 16 in the turnover margin this year.
Their defense, by the way, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Hello, Kevin Byard leads the league in interceptions. Yeah. Welcome to Lincoln Financial Field.
By the way, they might be getting Jalen Johnson back, who's one of the best corners in football. They might be getting Kyler
TJ Edwards, by the way. It looks like he'll be out, but
he'll be out.
Wait, so did you say the Bears? Sorry, I missed it. Did you say the Bears are going to win?
I like the Bears to win the game. I know the Eagles are a pretty heavy favorite in the game, too. I'd go money line Bears.
Mike's picking the Bears. All right, Mike, we appreciate it, man. Extra time. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Mike.
Happy Thanksgiving, Michael.
Yeah. We appreciate you joining every week, Mike. People love listening to you. You're obviously a great sports mind. We appreciate it. Make sure everybody goes and follows Mike at Mike Gill Show. Mike, happy Thanksgiving, man. We'll talk to you again soon. All right, brother?
All right. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I'll see you.